Hello, heroes. Joe Smith here. Sorry, just too dark, too cold outside. Um, you don't want to see Joe Smith's ugly face anyway, so just going to do audio only here. Video again. Just kind of talking some thoughts and opinions here. Going to mention some news, facts, info during it, but it's mostly opinion. So take it for a grain of salt or whatever. Do your own research on the topic if you wish to form your own opinions. Don't have to agree with Joe Smith here, but you're more than welcome to post your own comments, thoughts, opinions um, in the comments below here. Let's have a discussion. Let's talk about student loans. We got several members of Congress claiming that they themselves can't even afford to pay their student loans. Coincidentally, all these members of Congress claiming that they can't afford to pay their outstanding student loans that they have still after being elected to Congress and making $174,000 a year. And some have been in Congress for 2 years already and just got reelected. But they all happen to be Democrat that Joe Smith here is aware of. And they all happen to be women, and they all or mostly happen to be Democrat women of like color, I guess is proper terminology these days. So why is it Democrat women of color making $174,000 a year cannot afford to pay their student loans from several years ago, yet men of color that are Democrats and white men and women that are Democrats can all afford to pay their student loans and aren't complaining, and white men and women and men of color on the Republican side, none of them are complaining and they can all afford it. So why is it only Democrat women of color can't afford the same things as their coworkers making the same pay? Their men of color coworkers, their white men and women coworkers under the same party, and then of course all their white and colored men and women co-workers under the other party. Well, because of racism, of course. Or at least that's what they're crying. Racism and sexism. Maybe we should take a look at their spending. Like, well, they can afford a $500,000 house. They can afford to drive a Mercedes or Cadillac Escalade or something or other. They can afford the Prada purse. They got all this name brand clothing and stuff. Well, maybe it just happens that these certain people of a certain gender, of a certain race, of a certain political party just happen to spend more than all their other co-workers. I mean, that's why they can't afford to pay them back. Maybe their co-workers are just a little bit smarter at managing their finances and made sacrifices and went without certain things to make sure their loans got paid off. They're saying that Americans need student debt forgiveness, so that's everyone that's got a student loan right now, let's just forgive it so they don't have to pay nothing more ever again on it. But then the people that already pay theirs off, that are having They're paying a house payment right now or a car payment right now. Well, they don't get no help. They should have paid off their car or their house instead of paying out their student loans. They paid the wrong thing. So now the government won't help them, is what the government's saying. What these Democrats are saying. So those that were responsible and drove a clunker and lived in an apartment or a tiny house with roommates or something, well, they don't get any help now. But those that went and spent tons of money on nice things instead of paying back their responsibilities, well, let's help them, the Democrats say, which that don't sound fair. That don't sound like equality. Help the irresponsible people, but don't help the responsible people that are struggling. Should be the other way around. Oh, and get this, they're saying it's because of years of predatory lending. Yes, predatory lending. Well, first of all, who applied for the loan? Is Fat Tony from The Simpsons going around forcing people to accept these loans and enroll in college? Whose choice was it to go to college? Whose choice was it to apply for that loan? And who signed the papers for that loan agreeing to the terms and conditions of that loan? So how could that be predatory lending? If you asked for it and you agreed for it, or agreed to it. Sounds more like predatory borrowing, if anything. These people tricked the banks into giving them money with no intentions of ever paying it back. Just what's really happening here is not predatory lending, it's predatory borrowing. People just want some free money so they could go party in college and sit in the student section and watch all the football games or whatever. And furthermore, they're like, well, years of predatory lending. Well, guess who's been issuing 100% of government-backed guaranteed student loans for the last 10 years? Well, Mr. Obama in 2010 signed a law outdating the 45-year-old policy of government backing loans issued by private banks to where all student loans would only be issued by the government. Banks could still issue their own loans to be used for personal loans or college loans or whatever, but the government would no longer back any of those in the event of a default. So in 2010, pretty much most, if not all, of the private banks quit issuing student loans. And because all loans were backed by the government and enrollment shot up, well, colleges raised their prices. Teachers were wanting more money. The coaches wanted more money. They wanted the big name coaches, so their football team to go to the playoffs or whatever, go to a bowl game. So they jacked up their tuition rates. Figure, well, government's going back it all anyways. We're going to get our money. So that's part of the problem. Obama is signing that law to where all student loans will be backed by the government and issued only through the government. So if you Democrats want to cry foul, if you want to cry predatory lending, I guess blame Obama for predatory lending. It's Obama's fault. He signed the law. He did it. But you'll probably never hear any of these Democrats blame him or say anything about it. They won't even admit when they're wrong. But you know what? You know, I know who has. There's supposed to be like about $1.5 trillion in student loan debt outstanding currently in America. You want to know who holds the most of that? Rich people. Yep, rich people. Like about 3/4 of student loan debt is held by people making more than $50,000 a year. People making less than $50,000 only have about a quarter of the student loan debt. So when the Democrats say they want to forgive student loans, in reality they're saying they want to give rich people free money. So the rich people can spend their money on nice houses, big houses, nice luxury cars and sports cars, vacations and boats, jet skis, nice things. So, does that sound fair? Let's help rich people out so they can afford nice things, so they don't have to pay their college. The only reason why they're rich is because they went to college and got that degree, got that nice job. Those that couldn't afford college and didn't go to college, making $10 an hour cleaning hotel rooms at 45, 50 years old now. So for all you poor people out there that voted Democrat, thinking they're going to help you, nah, they ain't. They're going to make you pay higher taxes from your $10 an hour housekeeping job or burger flipping job to give free money to rich people, give free college to rich people, so the rich people can spend their money on fancy stuff that you can't afford. So how does that make you feel now? It's more proof. All the Democrats do is lie. They kept advertising. Vote for us. We'll buy your vote. $2,000. We'll give you $2,000 stimulus if you vote for us. And now Biden's saying, well, we decided to make $2,000 too much. Now we're talking $1,400. Oh, you already promised people $2,000 for their vote. And now you're reneging and only wanting to pay them $1,400 for their vote after they vote after it's too late. Biden made a law, executive order law, must wear masks on federal property. Then the next day he's and his family running around without a mask. Nancy Pelosi made a rule or whatever. Everyone has to go through metal detectors, even Congress and senators. And if they don't, then they get fined. And she's given fines to some of the other Congress people, and then she herself is caught sneaking around them and not going through them and refuses to pay her same fine. for her own law. Rules for thee, not for me. Hope this goes to be a lesson for those that did vote Democrat, and in 2 years, you start making better choices. And back to the student loan topic, well, if you can't afford the loan to pay it back, don't get the loan. Don't sign the paper. Don't take the money. No such thing as predatory lending. Like, well, they shouldn't have approved you in the first place. Well, and maybe you shouldn't have applied in the first place, too. You shouldn't have signed off accepting it when they did approve you when they shouldn't have. Like I said, last 10 years, it's been Obama and the Democrats doling out the student loans. So, guess Obama's a predator. Joe Smith signing out.